Tonight's episode includes a Manta Sleep affiliate link, which helps support the show at no extra cost to you. If you've ever tried sleeping with a regular sleep mask and found that light still gets in around the edges, or the mask presses against your eyes and just feels uncomfortable, Manta Sleep takes a different approach. Their masks are designed to give you a true blackout experience while keeping pressure off your eyes, so you can actually relax and forget you're wearing one. They also have several different versions depending on how you sleep, and one of the coolest is their Bluetooth audio sleep mask. It combines the blackout mask with built-in audio so you can listen to music, white noise, or even your favorite sleep stories without having earbuds in your ears all night. And for a podcast like this, that combination just makes sense. Block out the light, put on a story, and let everything else disappear for a while. If you're looking to upgrade your nighttime routine, check out Manta Sleep and find the mask that works best for you. You can find a direct link to them in the description of each episode. They also ship worldwide. Thanks for supporting the show. Now, let's get started. Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. Tonight you are invited to drift toward the blue windows of Santorini, where sea mist climbs the white cliffs like a quiet dream, and every doorway seems to open into peace. Settle in now, wherever you are. Let your body find the shape of rest. Let your shoulders soften, your hands loosen, your jaw unclench, and your breath begin to move at its own slow, gentle rhythm. There is nowhere else to be. Nothing else to solve. The day has set down its basket of worries, and you may set yours down too. Imagine the island before dawn, floating in the Aegean like a pale shell. The houses are white and smooth, curved by wind and sun, resting along the cliffside in layers of quiet. Their windows are painted a blue so deep and clear that they seem borrowed from the sea itself. A soft mist rises from the water, touching balconies, stone steps, old wooden doors, and pots of sleeping basil. It hushes the edges of everything. It makes the world feel tender and far away. Breathe in slowly, as though you are breathing in that cool sea air. Breathe out gently, as though you are letting a small wave return to shore. With each breath, the room around you may grow quieter. With each breath, the island grows nearer. The story will carry itself now, and you may simply rest beside it, listening without effort, drifting without trying. On a morning wrapped in silver mist, a traveler named Callia arrived in the village above the caldera. She had come by a narrow road that wound between stone walls and sleeping gardens, while the sea below remained hidden beneath a veil of cloud. The village was still. No bells had rung yet. No footsteps crossed the square. Even the cats, who usually claimed the warm stones as their kingdom, were curled beneath chairs, dreaming private feline dreams. Callia carried only a small woven bag and a shawl the color of unbleached linen. She walked slowly, not because she was tired, but because the morning seemed to ask it of her. Every surface held a pearl-like glow. The white walls were softened by mist, and the blue windows shone through it like gentle lanterns. Some were shuttered. Some stood open just enough to reveal lace curtains, clay cups on windowsills, and dim rooms where the coolness of night still lingered. She'd been told there was an old house at the edge of the village, a house with 7 blue windows facing the sea. But as she wandered through the quiet lanes, she forgot to count. The houses leaned close together, each one curved and bright, each one marked by a blue door, a blue gate, a blue railing, a blue window with flaking paint, and a little story hidden inside it. The village felt less like a place to find something, and more like a place to be found by something kind. The mist moved with her. It curled along the ground and brushed the hem of her dress. It slipped between stairways and over low walls, carrying the scent of salt, thyme, damp stone, and distant flowers. Somewhere below, waves touched the base of the cliffs with soft, patient hands. The sound rose slowly, faint and rounded, like breathing heard from another room. At the top of a winding stair, Callia paused beside a small chapel with a blue dome resting under the pale sky. The dome was blurred by vapor, its edges melted into morning. Beside the chapel stood a fig tree, its leaves dark and wide, each one holding a bead of mist. A white cat with gray paws watched from the low wall. Its eyes were half closed, as though it knew that nothing in the world needed hurrying. Callia smiled at the cat and continued on. Soon the lane narrowed, then opened into a terrace of smooth stone. Beyond it, where the sea should have been, there was only luminous white. The caldera lay hidden. The horizon had disappeared. The world had become sky and stone and silence. It was then that Callia saw the house. It stood at the very edge of the cliff, rounded and calm, its white walls slightly uneven, as though shaped by hands that had known patience. Along its front were blue windows, their wooden frames weathered by years of sun, wind, salt, and rain. The color was not the polished blue of new paint, but a layered blue. Deep in some places, pale in others, marked by time. It reminded Callia of shallow water over sand, then deeper water beyond, then the evening sea under moonlight. The door was painted the same blue, and beside it hung a small bronze bell. When Callia touched the bell, it rang with a sound so soft that it seemed less to announce her arrival than to greet the mist. After a moment, the door opened. An old woman stood inside, wrapped in a dark shawl with silver hair braided loosely over one shoulder. Her face was lined in the way of people who have watched many mornings and found something worth loving in each one. "You have come in the mist," the woman said. Callia nodded. "It followed me from the road." The old woman smiled, as if this explained everything. "Then it must like you." She stepped aside and Callia entered. The house smelled of olive wood, honey, clean linen, and sea air. The floor was cool beneath her feet. The walls curved gently inward, holding the quiet. In the main room, a low table was set beside a window, where the blue shutters had been folded open. Beyond the window, the mist pressed close, and tiny droplets glistened along the sill. The old woman introduced herself as Nisa. She kept the house, she said, though perhaps the house kept her too. She gave Callia a cup of warm mountain tea, golden and fragrant, with a spoonful of thyme honey stirred in. The sweetness moved through the steam slowly. Callia wrapped both hands around the cup and listened as Nisa spoke of the morning. "In clear weather," Nisa said. "The sea shows everything at once. The islands, the passing boats, the lines of the cliffs, the path of the sun. But in mist, the sea tells its secrets softly. It shows only what is near enough to be trusted." Callia looked at the blue window. A droplet gathered on the frame, trembled, and slid down, leaving a darkened line in the old paint. Nisa noticed where she was looking. These windows have watched many seasons. They have held back wind, welcomed light, and looked out through storms. They have seen fishermen return at dawn, brides pass under garlands, children chase their own shadows, and old friends sit silently because there was nothing more to say. Callia listened, and the room seemed to settle deeper around them. After tea, Nisa gave her a small key on a faded ribbon. "The upper room is ready. Rest there or wander as you like. The mist will lift when it is finished being mist." The key was cool in Callia's palm. She climbed a narrow staircase curved like the inside of a shell. The steps were worn in the middle from many feet over many years. At the top was a small room with a bed built into the wall, a folded quilt, a clay pitcher of water, and a blue window facing the unseen sea. She set down her bag and opened the shutters. The mist entered not as a wind, but as a presence. It cooled her cheeks and softened her breath. Below, somewhere beyond sight, a boat bell sounded once, low and far, then faded into the hush. Callia leaned against the sill. For a long while she watched nothing visible, and yet the nothing was full. Shapes moved within it, almost forming. A roofline, a gull, a sliver of cliff, then all dissolved again. At last she wrapped the shawl around her shoulders and lay down on the bed. The quilt smelled faintly of sun, though the sun had not yet arrived. Her eyes closed. In the quiet, she imagined the blue windows of the house, opening and closing with the breathing of the sea. When she woke, the mist had thinned, but had not gone. The room glowed with a softened afternoon light. Outside the window, rooftops appeared in gentle pieces, a balcony with drying linen, a pot of geraniums, a stairway descending into whiteness. The sea remained hidden, but its brightness was everywhere. Callia went downstairs and found Nisa in the courtyard, trimming herbs with small silver scissors. The courtyard was enclosed by white walls with blue gates at either end. Clay pots lined the edges, filled with basil, rosemary, lavender, and a climbing vine whose purple flowers held droplets like tiny glass beads. In the center stood a round stone table with a bowl of figs, bread wrapped in cloth, and a dish of olives shining darkly. They ate together without haste. The bread was warm from a neighbor's oven. The figs were soft and sweet. The olives tasted of earth and salt. Nisa poured water from a clay jug, and Callia watched how the light trembled through it. After the meal, Nisa asked whether Callia wished to see the oldest window. Callia did. They passed through the house and into a narrow room at the back where the ceiling dipped low and the air smelled faintly of cedar. There, set into a thick wall, was a small square window, painted blue nearly to black. The paint had cracked in fine lines, like the surface of an old map. The shutters were closed. "This window does not face the sea," Nisa said. "It faces the lane, but it has heard more stories than any of the others." She opened it. Outside was a little passageway, barely wide enough for a donkey cart. The mist lay low there, but voices drifted through it. Soft footsteps, a woman humming, the clink of cups from a kitchen nearby. Somewhere a child laughed, then quieted, as though the mist had placed a finger to its lips. Nisa rested her hand on the frame. "People think windows are for looking out, but they are also for listening. When the shutters are open, the house remembers it is part of the village." Callia stood beside her, listening. The lane gave a slow offering of ordinary sounds: a broom against stone, a kettle lid set down, the murmur of neighbors speaking in voices too soft to understand. Nothing important seemed to be happening, and because of that, everything felt whole. Later, Callia wandered alone. The village had begun to stir, though gently. A baker opened his door and warm air spilled into the mist, carrying the scent of sesame and honey. An old man in a blue cap carried a basket of oranges up a stair, pausing often to look toward the hidden sea. A woman watered red flowers beneath a window, and the water ran down the white wall in shining threads before vanishing into the stones. Everywhere blue windows watched. Some were bright as morning, some were faded almost gray. Some had shutters latched with iron hooks. Some had curtains moving behind them, light as breath. Callia felt that each window was a small pause in the white walls, a place where the island inhaled and exhaled. She walked slowly, letting her hand trail along the cool plaster, letting the mist settle in her hair. At the edge of the village, she found a path descending toward the cliff. It was bordered by wild thyme and low grasses silvered with moisture. The path led to a little lookout with a stone bench. From there, the world was still mostly hidden, but the mist had opened in places. Through pale gaps, Callia saw dark water far below, calm and immense. It appeared and vanished, appeared and vanished, like a thought too peaceful to hold. A gull passed through the white air without crying. Its wings were gray at the edges. It seemed less to fly than to drift. Callia sat on the bench. The mist moved around her in slow folds. She could feel the island beneath her, volcanic and ancient, though the village above seemed tender and light. She imagined all the blue windows behind her, all the rooms and sleeping cats and warm ovens, all the small human lives resting against the cliff above the hidden sea. The thought comforted her. There was no need for grand adventure here. The island offered another kind of story, the story of staying, watching, breathing, and letting time pass through open shutters. As afternoon leaned toward evening, the mist became golden at the edges. The sun had not fully shown itself, yet its warmth entered the air. Callia returned to Nisa's house by another lane. She passed under an archway where drops of water fell from bougainvillea leaves onto the stones below. Each drop made a soft, dark circle, and each circle slowly faded. At the blue door, Nisa was waiting with a lantern. "I thought we might light the windows," she said. Together they moved through the house as evening gathered. Nisa carried the lantern, and Callia followed with small candles cupped carefully in her hands. At each window, they placed a flame behind the blue frame. The glass, old and slightly wavy, caught the light and changed it. From inside, the windows glowed amber at their centers and blue at the edges, as though holding dusk and sea together. In the front room, Nisa lit a candle beside a bowl of water and floating jasmine blossoms. In the kitchen, a candle stood near a loaf of bread, cooling beneath cloth. In the upper room, Callia placed a flame on the sill and watched it tremble in the draught. The mist outside reflected the glow, making a small halo beyond the glass. When all the windows were lit, they stepped outside. The house had become a gentle constellation on the cliff. Each blue window held a pocket of warm light. The mist wrapped around the walls, and the lights blurred softly within it. Callia felt as though she were looking at a ship at sea or at a memory of a home she had once known in a dream. Nisa stood beside her quietly. "There is an old tale," she said after a while, "that when the sea mist comes to Santorini, it is not only weather, it is the breath of the sea remembering the sky. It climbs the cliffs to look through the blue windows because the blue reminds it of itself." Callia smiled. "Does the sea need reminding?" "Everyone does," Nisa said. "Even the sea." The mist thickened again as night approached. The village lights appeared one by one, softened by vapor. Doors opened and closed. Somewhere, a small stringed instrument began to play a slow melody, not for celebration, but for the pleasure of sound in the evening air. The notes drifted along the lanes, curling around corners, slipping beneath archways, finding the blue windows and resting there. Nisa and Callia sat in the courtyard for supper. There was lentil soup with lemon, bread dipped in olive oil, and a little cheese wrapped in vine leaves. The lantern stood between them. Its light made the herbs cast delicate shadows on the white wall. The mist above the courtyard was pale with moonlight, though the moon itself could not be seen. They spoke quietly of simple things, of weather, of gardens, of how time grows stronger in poor soil, of how paint fades differently depending on which way a window faces. Nisa told Callia that every spring she repainted a few shutters, never all of them, because a house should keep some memory of its seasons. Too much newness, she said, could make a place forget how to be old. After supper, Callia helped wash the bowls. Warm water steamed in the basin. The scent of lemon peel rose from Nisa's hands. When the dishes were set to dry, Nisa went to her chair by the oldest window and began to mend a linen cloth. Callia sat near the front window and watched the mist. The village had become very quiet. The music had ended. The cats had taken to doorways and chairs. The sea below could be heard more clearly now, each wave a soft arrival, each retreat a long sigh. The lit windows of neighboring houses shone through the mist like stars lowered to earth. Callia thought of the rooms behind those windows, a child asleep beneath a woven blanket, a grandmother folding clothes, a fisherman setting out his boots for dawn, a young woman writing a letter she might never send, a loaf of bread cooling, a kettle resting, a lamp turned low. So many lives, all held gently by white walls, blue frames, and the patient breath of the sea. As she watched, something shifted in the mist beyond the window. It was not a person, not exactly. It was a shape made of pale movement, as if the mist had gathered itself into a figure for only a moment. It stood near the edge of the terrace, slender and luminous, with hair like falling vapor. Callia did not feel afraid. The figure turned toward the blue window, and though no face could be seen, there was a feeling of recognition, as if the mist had found what it came for. Nisa continued mending, her needle moving in and out of the cloth. "The sea is looking in," she said softly, without lifting her eyes. Callia looked again. The figure had dissolved. Only mist remained, pearled with window light. For a long while, neither woman spoke. Then Nisa told the rest of the tale. Long ago, she said, before the village had grown along the cliff, the sea and sky had been so close here that they often forgot where one ended and the other began. The sun would rise from water into air, and the moon would lay its path across both. The people painted their windows blue so the sea would always feel welcome, and so the sky would recognize its reflection in the homes below. On misty nights, when the boundaries softened, the sea climbed to the village to visit the windows. It came not to take anything, not to disturb, but to remember the warmth of lamps, the sound of voices, and the tenderness of human sleep. And when it returned to itself before dawn, it carried those memories back into the deep, where even the quietest creatures might dream of blue shutters, herb gardens, and candlelight. Callia listened as if listening to a lullaby. The tale was simple, and perhaps that was why it seemed true. The mist touched the glass, the candle burned low. Nisa's voice grew softer and softer until it became part of the sound of the waves. At last, Callia climbed the curved stairs to her room. The candle on her sill was nearly spent. Its flame leaned gently from side to side, then straightened. The blue frame around the window looked darker now, almost the color of midnight water. Beyond it, nothing could be seen but mist and the faintest glow from the village below. She changed into a soft linen nightdress and folded her shawl at the foot of the bed. Before lying down, she opened the window just a little. Cool air entered. It smelled of salt, jasmine, wet stone, and distant rain that would never quite arrive. The sound of the sea rose and fell, Somewhere nearby, a cat leapt lightly onto a roof, its paws making almost no sound at all. Callia lay beneath the quilt. The bed was built into the white wall, and it held her like a quiet alcove carved by kindness. Her breathing slowed. The house settled around her with small night sounds. Wood shifting, a shutter tapping once, water cooling in a pitcher, the faint movement of Nisa downstairs. Outside, the mist pressed close to the blue window, and the window glowed faintly with reflected candlelight. As sleep approached, Callia imagined the mist traveling through the village. It drifted past the chapel dome, silvering its blue curve. It slid along stairways and over flower pots. It rested on orange leaves and gathered on iron railings. It touched each window, not knocking, not asking, simply remembering. Behind every blue frame, someone slept, or dreamed, or sat quietly with a cup in hand. The mist blessed them all with its cool breath. In her dream, the village floated free of the cliff. The white houses became clouds. The blue windows became pieces of sky. The sea rose gently around them, not as a flood, but as a cradle. Nisa's house sailed without moving, its candles glowing, its herbs fragrant, its old walls calm and sure. Through every window came a different softness: moonlight, sea breath, distant music, the hush of wings, the scent of bread, the memory of sunlight on stone. Callia walked through the dream house slowly. Each room opened into another. Each blue window looked out onto a different quiet sea. In one, dawn was beginning. In another, stars floated low over dark water. In another, mist filled everything with silver. She did not need to choose. The house held all hours at once, and each hour was peaceful. Downstairs in the dream, Nisa sat by the oldest window, mending not a cloth but a piece of mist. Her needle flashed like moonlight. With every stitch, the mist became softer, warmer, more luminous. When she looked up, her eyes were kind. "Rest," she said. "The island knows how to keep watch." And Callia rested. Night deepened over Santorini. The real village grew still beneath its veil of sea mist. The candles behind the blue windows burned lower, each one a small, patient heart. Nisa slept in her chair for a while, the mended cloth folded in her lap. The cats slept in doorways. The ovens cooled. The stone paths held the memory of footsteps, and then released it. Below the cliff, the sea breathed in darkness. It breathed slowly. It breathed gently. It breathed as if rocking every dream on the island. Near dawn, the mist began to loosen. It thinned along the rooftops. It lifted from the herb pots and the chapel dome. It slipped away from the blue windows, leaving droplets behind like tiny farewell kisses. The horizon, still pale and uncertain, began to return. The caldera opened itself in silence. The sea appeared, smooth and vast, holding the last silver of night. But Callia did not wake yet. She slept deeply, held by the white room and the blue window, by the old house and the soft breathing sea. Her dreams had become very simple: a window, a curtain, a slow wave, a warm cup waiting on a table, a path through mist, a light that did not hurry. And now, dear traveler, the story grows quieter too. The island is safe in the hush before morning. The blue windows are closed softly. The mist has done its gentle work. The sea has remembered the sky, and the sky has remembered the sea. There is nothing more to carry, nothing more to follow. Only breath, only rest. Let the white houses fade into softness. Let the blue windows become small, calm stars behind your eyes. Let the mist gather every thought and make it light, light enough to drift away. The waves below the cliff rise and fall. The candles glow low, and the village sleeps. And you may sleep too. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well